The NDP have finally fired anti-oil activist Zipporah Berman. We announced our Fire Berman campaign last summer, and it looks like the government just couldn't ignore us anymore. But that wasn't before Berman took off with 23 grand of your taxpayer money in order to fight against the province's interests. You might remember that activists like Berman absolutely hate the oil and gas industry and pipelines. They've built their careers on fighting against oil and gas projects almost by any means possible, even if that means taking up jobs with the government. We've done plenty of stories on Berman, but let me remind you about who she is.
My point here is that oil corrodes. It's corroding our pipelines. We saw that this year with so many leaks and spills that threaten our drinking water and communities. But more so than just corroding pipelines, oil is corroding our democracy.
And the NDP may have fired her, but I don't believe for a second that she's gone for good. Actually, it seems more than a little convenient that now that the BC election is over and the NDP and Greens, the parties eco-activists campaigned for and are fighting against the Trans Mountain pipeline, that Berman is taking off out of Alberta. How could she possibly keep her hands off of taxpayer money to fuel her own special interests that work against Canadians? Anyway, about Berman and the Alberta NDP. In my last story about her, I showed you how she was collaborating with the government long before the Oil Sands Advisory Group was formed. So just because she doesn't have an official role with the Alberta NDP anymore, that doesn't mean she won't be working in the background. I told you how it appears as though Berman is acting as a Trojan horse to get her friends that run green energy initiatives government money, our money, to fund their schemes. I told you about Iron and Earth and how Berman instructed Marcella Munro, who's the Minister of Energy's Chief of Staff, about a press conference and how Iron and Earth was expecting government help to launch their plan to retrain oil and gas workers to install solar panels. I showed you that the Minister of Environment, Shannon Phillips, parroted Berman's formulated talking points about this group to the mainstream media. Berman was never just a panelist. It's almost as if she's running these ministries and she's not even an elected official. What's more is that Iron and Earth told me in an email that they haven't received any government money. But I thought that was really weird. These green freaks always stick together. And Berman herself said that they were looking for government support. Something clicked when I read this email between Zipporah Berman and Rod Ruff, who is the program director for yet another one of these environmental foundations called Alberta Eco Trust. They give grants away to projects involving climate change. Listen to this. Hi Zipporah, as a follow-up to our conversation today involving climate engagement in Calgary, please accept this e-intro to my partners. You mentioned that Marcella from the Premier's office would be a good connection, so I hope you can connect. It then goes on to say, there's obviously a lot more that can happen regarding engagement, message development, deployment, etc. So I hope this serves as a good starting point. So what exactly is Zipporah Berman doing connecting all of her eco-activist friends to the government? And what exactly does Ruff mean by message development and deployment? Remember, these emails are from April of last year, so from even before she was appointed by Rachel Notley to the Oil Sands Advisory Group. But it goes on, so let me read the rest of this email where Berman responds to Ruff and Munro. Marcella, please see below regarding work and mandate. Hoping you two can get together and collaborate re-messaging. So not only did Berman astroturf Iron and Earth in, but she's setting up meetings between yet another environmental group that gives out grants to their favorite environmental causes. Of course, there are no oil and gas projects involved. I looked and I didn't find any. But you know what I did find? Government funding. It says so right on their website, and Director of Alberta Eco Trust, Pat Letizia, told me so in an email. She says directly that they received a grant under the Alberta Community Initiatives Program. And remember how I told you that Iron and Earth said that they don't get government money? Well, look who shows up on Alberta Eco Trust's grant list. That's right, iron and earth. So let's unravel this here. Taxpayers give part of their paychecks to the NDP distributes it to the Alberta Eco Trust, and then they dole out that grant money to other environmental causes that work against the rest of Albertans. These unethical tactics are way too similar to places like the Tides Foundation, who basically greenwash money to distribute to environmental groups to attack the favorite causes of billionaire fake philanthropists like George Soros. Except in this case, it would be taxpayer money being used. The money of the unemployed workers of Alberta being used to kneecap their own industry. It's just disgusting. And when I tried to dig further and sent Alberta Eco Trust a follow-up email and a phone call, they didn't get back to me. We have to remember that Zipporah Berman is a professional activist, and she started cutting deals with big companies over environmental issues years ago with Forest Ethics. Forest Ethics was an environmental group that apparently formed to protect forests, but they've accepted a lot of grant money from Tides. How much do you think Zipporah Berman is worth? Seeing that kind of money on the bankroll makes a person question whether Berman really believes what she's saying or whether she's in it for the money. I'd be confident betting on the latter. And I'm pretty confident that she'll still be working with the NDP to further her own interests. They just decided she wasn't a good look for them anymore, so maybe she'll just have to take a back seat and not be in the public eye as much. The NDP say they support pipelines and the oil sands, but they have people like Berman that openly hate the industry to do their dirty work, like going to BC to campaign against Alberta's interests. And look how that turned out. We now have a BC Greens and NDP deal in the making, both of which parties absolutely hate oil and gas, so the plan is working. Berman says oil is corroding our democracy. What the hell does that even mean? If anything, it's people like her that will stop at no end to make unethical dealings with our money to get what she wants that are compromising what's best for Canadians. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, be sure to click the subscribe button so that you don't ever miss out on the other side of the story in Canadian news.